Hi, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and today I'm going through a list of the top 10 games that took me by surprise. Now, this list is basically like it sounds. It's a list of games that they're amongst my favorite games. All of these are amongst my top 50, I believe. But what I'm specifically picking out from this list are games that not just were in my top 50, not just games that I like, but rather they are games that I did not see coming, that for some reason or another I played it, and I'll go into that as much as possible while I go through this video, and then they just completely, hit me. I was not expecting something good. I was not excited. I hadn't come into this with reviews or preconceptions. Somehow it ended up on my shelf. Somehow, or maybe at someone else's house or friend's house. I ended up playing it, and just boom, into my top 50. I think they're all top 50. I'm kind of guesstimating. In any case, I'm going to start from the list, but I'm going to start from the bottom up. So this is the lower ranked all the way to the higher ranked. So coming in at number 10, we have Valeria Card Kingdoms. Valeria Card Kingdoms is a game that I don't even remember how or where I ended up playing it or why it ended up on my shelf. I'm fairly certain, I think I do recall, I believe it came to me through a Toronto trade. It was basically a local trade that I did, and before sending it off to the warehouse, it looked interesting, so I decided to play it, and really enjoyed it. Valeria Card Kingdoms it's in the same vein as Catan, as Machikoro, as Space Base. It's basically roll dice. The dice trigger good things for all people, and then you do things with those dice. I don't know why I like Valeria so much compared to the others. I know Machikoro I find a little light. Catan Catan. It's a great game, but at this point I'm kind of past it. And Space Base and Machikoro, and Space Base and Valeria, I would say are the most similar. Ultimately, I drastically prefer Valeria for my own collection, but Space Base is on my list to get back, try again, and reacquire. Coming in at number 9, we have 1775, which is actually right behind me over here, but I'm not going to try to grab it. 1775 is a game. It came after 1812. Well, technically it's before 1812, but it came out after 1812. And that was a game that I don't remember what made me get it. I don't have any recollection. 1775 was the second game I got. I got one of the other ones first, I believe. But it completely hit me out of the blue. I think I got it, and then I read the rule book, was completely nonplussed, not excited at all. It was just looked very, very meh to me, and it just kind of sat on my shelf for a long time, not being that interested in getting it. For some reason, I pulled it out one day and ended up playing it, and I really enjoyed it. It's a very, very simple system, but it works well. The way I put it is, this is a game where the actual game is much more than the sum of its parts. It comes across as very basic, comes across as very simple, but what it does very well. I actually have not gotten to the table in way too long, and really need to get to the table again. Number 7 is Rum and Bones. Rum and Bones, I think you can see right over here. Rum and Bones is one of those many miniature-heavy CMON games that I tend to really enjoy. The thing with Rum and Bones that is interesting to me, and there's actually a few in this category, Rum and Bones is the highest ranked, is for a while as I was getting into the CMON games, as I was enjoying Zombicide and all those that genre, I started picking up any CMON game just to try it, just to see, hey, I got Arcadia Quest back, even though I had tried it before. I went through a whole cycle of trying all these games. Rum and Bones, for whatever reason, was completely not on my radar at all. It just had minis. It was a CMON game, but nothing about it was that interesting to me. I hadn't looked into it. I ended up getting it just because it fell under the umbrella of these miniature-heavy CMON games that I enjoyed, and I read the rulebook, looked okay, same difference, ended up playing it. Absolutely blew me away. It is an incredibly solid two-player. I believe you can do team play as well. It's an incredibly solid two-player experience. It's not a heavy strategy, duke it out and manipulate over. It's kind of the opposite of 1775 in a sense. It's a lot more powers and fun and dice rolling than nuance and tactical maneuvering. But I enjoy nuance and tactical maneuvering, and I also enjoy powers and dice rolling. Both have a very firm space in my collection. So Rum and Bones was number 7 on the list. Coming in at number 6, we have Lancaster, specifically Lancaster Big Box. Now, Lancaster is one of those games that kind of sat in the background of my awareness of the gaming world. I came into the hobby after Lancaster had come out, and it was always on my list of games to eventually try. There's a lot of these games that are still on my list. Princess of Florence is still on my list. Puerto Rico. There's many of these older games that I never really got around to playing, although Puerto Rico I did play a little bit. But there's these games I just kind of wanted to play, and Lancaster fell into that category, a game that I eventually knew I wanted to get to the table, and I just kind of ignored it for a long time. And then at one point there was a sale on Amazon for the big box for roughly 40 or so, and I know Board Game Co. does sell games, but sometimes these Amazon sales or deals elsewhere, sometimes they're below our cost. So in this case, this was well below our cost. I grabbed it, figured I'll give it a shot. If not, I'll trade it around. And it was insanely good. Lancaster is this brutal worker. I think it's basically a worker placement, but where you're ejecting other users from their spots as you place additional influence to power up your guys and push them away. And you start off the game feeling like you will never be able to get anything done. You start off with 2 workers in a 4-round game. 2 workers in a 4-round game, that's 8 moves. But realistically, you end up getting extra moves from your castle arrangement. You end up getting additional workers, otherwise known as knights in the game. But it's absolutely brutal the way the game works. It's very simple. Absolutely love it. It's been a while since I played it. Not that long, not as long as 1775, but it is a great game. I need to get to the table. Number 6 is Quest for El Dorado. Quest for El Dorado is a light deck builder game by Reina Knizia. I got it, the same idea as some of these other games. It was kind of like, okay, Reina Knizia came out with a game. It looks ridiculously light. It looks kind of simple, whatever. You know, maybe I'll get it to the table eventually. And again, it was an Amazon sale where it was cheaper than our cost. And I got it, and it was insanely addictive. This might be... Yeah, I don't know, it's insanely addictive. It's thoroughly enjoyable. It's deck building, like I said. It might be my favorite deck builder. I'm not sure. I have to take a look at my rankings. But it's simple. It plays in 30-45 minutes, plays well with 2, 3, and 4 players. It's basically a race through the jungle where you're acquiring these cards. Some cards help you get through the water, some cards help you get through the trees, some cards help you get through the villages. But the way you put together your deck based on the variable terrain setup works really well in this game. It is surprisingly addictive for what it actually brings to the table. I did get the expansion Hexes and Heroes, I think it is. I have not played with it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. This is just a fun, simple, easy to get to the table. Great for filling a gap when you kind of finish game night a little early, you have a little more time, or Saturday afternoon gaming like I've talked about before. Then at number 4, we have, what's it called? Empire's Age of Discovery. Empire's Age of Discovery is somewhere on my shelf over here. It is this game that I got it a while ago. This is one of those ones in this list that I don't remember how and why I got it. All I remember is I think it was a trade again. I think it was a trade. Someone offered me a trade. They had recently kickstarted it. This is a reprint of the original Empires. I can't remember the original title, but there's an original Empires, and they kickstarted and kind of changed some aspects of the game, but keeping others. This is another worker placement game that works incredibly well. I got it in a trade. I figured I'd give it a shot. Didn't know much about it. Didn't know anything about the genre, the game or the original game, and it's beautifully produced to begin with. It has, you know, nice metal coins, nice ships, beautiful box, beautiful insert. All that stuff is solidly done, and it's just thoroughly enjoyable to play. It's a little bit of area control, a little bit of worker placement, a bunch of set collection, a whole bunch of things that work well. These buildings that give you powers as you get them, so you're trying to buy the buildings that will magnify your actions while trying to focus on whether you want to get your guys on the board and start getting points versus getting the extra workers that give you extra abilities. The whole thing is a mishmash of mechanics that works surprisingly well considering how many different things are being stuffed into one game. It's an incredible game, plays really well with 4 and 5, 6 is a little pushing it, and 3 is a little too little, but a thoroughly solid experience, completely took me out of the blue, and I can't wait to play that one again as well. Number 3 is Arena the Contest. Arena the Contest I've talked about in 2 different videos by now, or if you include my top 10, a few other videos. Arena the Contest was another trade that I do this a lot apparently with a bunch of these games where someone trades me a game and it wasn't on my radar, but I see it, I'm like, oh, let's get it or whatnot, and then I enjoy them. And don't get me wrong, many others do not make the cut. But Arena the Contest was a trade I made. I basically got Brook City as a Kickstarter, had second thoughts because I had Street Masters coming, and I ended up trading it for Arena the Contest, which I had passed on the Kickstarter and was kind of on the fence about. And so I just figured, I'm trading one game I don't want for another game I don't want. What's the worst that can happen? It's out of my shelf for a while until I started seeing pictures and videos and from people playing the solo experience and the cooperative experience, and I decided to pull it out and give it a shot. And it was insanely fun. This is a game that also, like 1775, really comes across as more than the sum of its parts. The gameplay is very simple. Ultimately, it comes down to you have your heroes, you take an action that's usually a move action, you follow that up with an attack action. I think you can do it in either order if I recall. And then you have these powers that powers do different things, and like this one will hit the guy 10 squares away and do 8 damage and push them 2 hexes. This one will heal you for 4 while giving a boost to your ally. It's just a bunch of these powers, and the game is really, really simple when you explain it to someone, but it works surprisingly well for what it is. They have an active Kickstarter going on. I'm all in on the expansions, the dragon stuff, the more content. Not that I've played through the full campaign here or anywhere close to it, but it is a thoroughly enjoyable experience. Completely unexpected. This is like almost more than unexpected in the sense that I had looked at it already and I had already passed on it. This wasn't just something that made its way to my doorstep. This was something I had decided no on, and when it actually ended up in my collection, it blew me away. Number 2 is actually I think I've lost count here, but number 3 is Dogs of War. Dogs of War is a game from CMON. That's another game. I have that down there. Dogs of War is basically a stock game in a sense. It's basically there's armies on the board, and the players are players who are trying to invest in influence in the armies. So you're not the actual armies themselves, rather you're investing in the armies and helping the armies fight, and then you see whose factions get the most points or win or whatnot. You can win by investing in the correct armies that end up being the most powerful. You can win by just getting, the right placement of points on the board. Lots of ways you can play. There are a bunch of games that do this kind of genre of being invested in forces as opposed to actually being the forces, and they do it in some more combative, some others. There's Imperial, there's Airlines Europe. It's an interesting concept that I generally enjoy, but this by far is my favorite from the ones that do it. I found that some of these games can be a little too long, and you can feel like the investment aspect of it, like Imperial is a good example of this, where I just feel that the investment aspect of Imperial can really suck if you don't get the right combination going on, and then you can be stuck in a 4-hour game that isn't working. In Airlines Europe it works, but it's a little lighter, and I played Airlines Europe for a while, kept it, enjoyed it, but didn't end up keeping it. This one, Dogs of War, is the one which I enjoy the most, and the one that's most likely to stay in my collection for a while, and I enjoy it every single time I play it. It plays well in 90 minutes to 2 hours, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. Number 2 is Rurik. Rurik is another game that I traded for. Same person I got Arena of the Contest from, actually. I believe in the same trade, even. It was another game completely not on my radar. This one less so than Arena. Arena I had looked at and passed on. Rurik is Dawn of Kiev, was one that I had not heard of or anything. I looked at it. Looked interesting, whatever. Ended up getting it just because it's part of a larger trade. Sat on my shelf for a few weeks completely unplayed. One afternoon I pulled out the rules, seemed simple enough, seemed like an interesting combination of Innis and Lancaster. Innis is one I did not talk about in this video, but one of my top games, and Lancaster I already mentioned. And I figured, what the heck, let's give it a shot. Absolutely blew me away. The problem with games being compared to other games that I enjoy is they are then being held up to the standard of those other games that I enjoy. Rurik is one that has been dropping for me. I mean, it came in at my number 6 game of all time as of 2019. I don't know if it'll be that high, but I still expect it to be in top 20 for sure, maybe still top 10. It's just the variable gameplay isn't there for me. The gameplay, while I love this game, don't get me wrong, top 20 is an insane level of enjoyment. At the same time, Rurik is a game that over multiple plays, I have found that it doesn't give that varied experience that I want. It kind of feels very similar every time. Granted, the tug of war and the fight is still enjoyable every single time, but compared to other games other games in my top 20, it's not as variable as I would like, and the experience is growing a little stale on me, so it'll probably still be in top 10, but this is one that if there's no expansion or something to mix it up, I can see it slowly and eventually slipping out. We'll see how that goes. And finally, number 1 on this list is Coimbra. Coimbra is, and I had a hard time, I ranked this list in the order of the games I like the most, not the order that was the biggest surprise. Perhaps I should have done that, would have been interesting. But Coimbra is my highest ranked game as of now from all the games on this list. Coimbra is a thoroughly enjoyable experience. It is it's basically a not worker placement. It's a Euro where you're trying to figure out these different paths and get the cards that will help you get the dice that will help you get move up in this path. Do I need influence or do I need guards? It's one of those interweaving mechanisms where every single thing you do cascades into another thing, and there's not that many actions going on in the game. The game's 4 rounds, and each round you have 3 dice to play, so effectively it's 12 actions. That's all you really have, but then the way those actions intermingle, they cascade into bonus actions and other things you can do, and it's an incredibly enjoyable experience every single time. And the way it plays out has been different for us every single time. You can focus on different tracks, you can focus on the points, you can focus on the economy, you can focus on the inner board and move around, you can focus on these external voyages you can invest in. There's so many different ways to specialize, there's so many different ways to win and to go through the game. It is always enjoyable to play. I really enjoy it, and as far as out of the blue part, it was one that I hadn't looked at any reviews or anything. I just saw pictures of it. Pictures looked pretty. I was like, let's try it. Got it. Read the rule book. Rule book was terrible. I've read far worse, but the rule book was just too much iconography. Just didn't pull me in at all. Almost gave up. Almost sent it back to retrade for something else. I'm glad I stuck with it though, because this is one of my top games. I'm not sure where it's currently ranked, but it might be like it's in the top 10. I know that, but I don't know the exact ranking. But this is by far one of my favorite games of all time. So there you have it. There's my list of the top 10 surprises I've had in my collection. These are games that I was not expecting, was not looking forward to, didn't get all hyped of a Kickstarter or a review or something, but nonetheless they managed to get past that complete lack of interest and have a place in my collection. I hope you enjoy this list. If you agree with my choices, if you disagree, if you like some of these games, if you never heard of some of these games, or alternatively, what are your biggest surprises? What games completely hit you out of the blue that you had no idea was coming and is now amongst your top 10 games, let's say. That's basically it. This is, once again, I'm Alex from Board Game Co. Drop by our website, boardgameco.com. You can buy lots and lots of games. I don't have a Patreon. I don't do any of that. Yeah, nothing against that. If you have a Patreon, great. But the way you can support our channel, if you like my content, if you like the stuff we put out, the opinion pieces, the reviews, head on over to boardgameco.com. Buy a few games. That's, win-win. That's the best way you can support the channel. That's basically it. Until next time, have a good one and keep gaming.